Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing, especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past. Hey all, Franco Musso here. Yes, I've hacked your podcast feed. I've held John and Mike hostage, but don't worry, I got my wires crossed and I'm actually paying them a small ransom in the form of sponsorship. Go figure. So, by popular demand, I'm cooking up 2 brand new offerings to help you get your portal projects off the ground in 2024. The first is my group coaching program launching in March. Join me and a cohort of other budding portal makers for live coaching sessions, weekly live training, office hours, Q&A, and surgeries. I'll guide you through the process from zero to launch, all at a fraction of the cost of hiring a freelancer or a contractor. It's like having a trusted partner on hand, helping you avoid the pitfalls, saving you a ton of money, headache, and time. Plus, you're bound to learn lots from others in the group as we discuss their experiences, challenges, and solutions. To apply, head on over to francomusso.com/group-coaching. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 13 of the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is John Russell and I'm here with my co-partner crab in crime, Mike Gowland. Say hello Mike, how are you?
Hello Mike, how you doing?
Nice. Today we are joined by Franco Musso. Franco, or the CRM Biz Coach as he's known on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, is a regular on the Power Platform conference scene. He's passionate about Power Pages and is starting a new course in March. He's been freelancing inside this space for over 3 years and has a solid foundational base from everything from Dynamics, from CRM3 to present day. Franco is also, and very kindly, our sponsor for this podcast series, and we really appreciate him for that. So this means, Franco, you're the first person to pay to be on the podcast.
Yeah, maybe so. And you're the first podcast host to interview your hostage taker, which is a bit of a strange dynamic.
It definitely is, yeah.
I mean, we are recording this from your basement, right?
Yeah. I kindly opened the window.
Let me out!
Ow!
All in good time. All in good time.
Yeah. How are you then, Franco? You okay?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm an optimistic geezer. I am speaking through what feels like a broken back and mid-house move and on computer B, but other than that, rocking it.
Yeah, sorry about the back, man. That sounds bad. Sounds painful.
Yep. I got used to it. I did manage somehow. I think that mix between having a beer or two and some painkillers, get to my nephew's 21st at the weekend. Once I got up on the dance floor, I didn't get down then for about 6 hours. So that's a 6-hour improvement of my usual stint of exercise this year.
Nice.
I did my back in a few weeks ago, didn't I, John? It was took my son to soft play, and I went up to, it was like a 4-story soft play, and I got up to the very top with him, and I was just about to come down, and suddenly my back just twinged, and I then realised I couldn't really move, but I somehow had to get down to the bottom of this soft play, going against these children running towards me, and it wasn't very fun at all. And I tried to hobble over to my wife. I didn't really want to call out from the top because I didn't know how that would come across to the other parents, but I completely sympathise with the bad back. And I remember it was Donna Sarker's episode. I was hobbling about and dosing myself up on painkillers. It was not fun.
Yeah, I think my injury was sustained in a similar Hollywood action fashion. There'll probably be a movie remake of it.
Yeah.
With more helicopters and explosions and stuff.
You have to make something up, really, because it's like, doing your back at soft play. I did my ankle down one step at a tube station. Yeah, we need to think of better stories. I had problems with that 3 years after that. 3 years.
A friend who put his back out by coughing, which I thought was quite humorous. From coughing to coughing.
But John, I think it's all in the storytelling and the camera angles and the lighting, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much so, yeah.
You know whether there's tumbleweed or not, I guess, don't you, with the cameras on.
So, Franco, as a freelancer or contractor, are there any pitfalls or issues that you've had to face which are different from being a full-time employee?
I feel I'm pretty unqualified for this one just because I've spent so little time as a full-time employee.
I've done probably every job there is to do, but it's usually been in a freelance or part-time or some kind of sketchy version of full-time work. But what I would say is you've got to certainly invest in your skills more, and you've got to let the world know you exist. So, for example, on my LinkedIn profile, I always make sure I've got things like case studies. I'll mention what were the challenges that I faced, what are the unique bits of technology I've used on a certain project, what was the outcome. Whereas I think if in permanent work, I think I would probably be thinking that's only really relevant if I'm ever going applying for a new role. Essentially, as a freelancer, I'm always on the lookout for that next role. But I tend to have, say, 3 to 5 projects on the go at any one time, which I'd say is quite a difference as well.
So would you say that you're just keeping more of like a closer track of the things that you're working on as a contractor, and you're documenting or paying closer attention to the documentation that you're producing as a contractor, because you're then referencing that to sell your services again when you need to?
Essentially, yeah. Things might change in the future, but I'd say I'm in a happy place now where I'm magnetic in the sense that I'm not going out looking for the work. I'm known for my expertise now. Conference talks and content marketing bring the leads to me. And usually they're already sold on Power Pages. They're already sold on using me. Sometimes a bit of pre-sale involved because, as we all know, Microsoft do a fantastic job of the positioning, fantastic job of making Power Pages look $1 million out of the box. Heavy dose of sarcasm there. So usually my last bit to get the client over the line is that they're sold on the technology stack. The white papers and stuff have got it past security, and it's just a matter now of saying, come on, it doesn't actually have to look like that, does it? So I'll do a bit of a proof of concept, show them how great it can look, and that's often just the last obstacle chipped away, and the customers.
So they've already made the decision before coming to you. They've already made the decision that that's the technology they're going to use.
Absolutely, yeah. So they've already done the business case, already calculated the ROI. The hard work's been done for me, really. Like I said, it's just that last obstacle. Can it look how we want it to look? And often that'll be just minimum viable product. Look, we need it to match our brand. It doesn't have to look $1 million. Whereas sometimes it is, look, this is our this is our flagship product. We do need it to have that Rolls Royce look and feel. But yeah, it's a funny one that you mentioned about the whether people need convincing or they're already sold, because the only bit of kickback I seem to get from other Power Platform consultants is the cost. And it's like they'll argue with themselves about the cost, they'll argue with me about the cost and how it's blocking so many customers. But actually for me, I've never experienced that at all.
Yeah, so because I remember they changed the licensing model, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about that and kind of explain that a little bit, because I think that's important to kind of understand how licensing works. I think it's a different. It was kind of done on authenticated users, wasn't it? The total when you bought them in blocks of 1,000 or something like that, and I remember it's quite complicated. I remember doing a calculation for licensing in Excel and thinking this is quite difficult. And then I remember seeing a video that it changed. And do you want to just go through that, maybe what it was before and then what it is now, just for people to hear?
To be honest, I don't get into licensing a great deal. The reason being that it's managed by the client usually. And again, they've done all calculations ahead of time. But you're absolutely right. You've got the blocks of authenticated users. You've got also an allowance of anonymous visits as well. And you have got to do some calculations about how many people you think are going to be authenticating each month. It's not necessarily, let's say you have to guess that it's going to be 1,000 users, and then once you hit that 1,000, you're done. It might be that you've got a user base of 1,000 and only 50 access it this month. Then you've only used 50 of those authenticated user sessions. But yeah, it's very different. I think, it's very different to something like, say, WordPress, Squarespace, these WYSIWYG website editors. But largely for me, the use case is so different that it warrants that kind of pricing. So for me, I compare it more to, let's say, a model-driven app, a Canvas app, but you're opening up to your external users. So for me, in fact, me and my customers all still refer to these as portals, not as whatever clunky thing Microsoft calls them external facing websites. As far as I'm concerned, every website's internal facing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's a portal, it's a web application. That's what we're granting access to.
So when we talk about the licensing and you've got the difference between authenticated and unauthenticated users, what happens when you breach that threshold that you've got the licensing for? Does your page stop completely? Does it go offline? What happens?
Great question. No, it'll remain online. You might be charged a little more, but essentially it tends to even out. But you'll see then that we've got things like the capacity monitoring now that you can see, well, actually I could do with just upping that a little for next month. And for many users, if we are reaching and exceeding those quotas, something is going really well about the project. We've got the buy-in, people are actually logging in and using the system. And that cost you've got on the licensing, you're saving multiples of that elsewhere.
Yeah. So like, it's an interesting metric actually, isn't it? Like if you do get that problem, you actually know that your portal's being, excessively used, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you imagine trying to get the same business value, drive through as many processes, cases, whatever that is for your web app. But that's on the phone with customer service agents, it's back and forth in emails, it's sending out snail mail. That cost to have provided the same value and reached the same goal would be a lot more. It's just you're not necessarily seeing it on the license, you're seeing it in staff costs, overhead, time delays are the big thing, really.
So is it that like usage of licensing? Could you almost compare it to, say, leasing a car and putting on like an annual mileage each year, so that if you 1 year you might go over your, like say you had 12,000 miles and you go over, but then the next year you go slightly under. When you say it evens out, is it a little bit like that, or is it something that's charged on a monthly basis that you have to like really keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of a balance between the two. I did wonder where you were going with that, and say if you can get 1,000 people in your car, then you've got much better value out of your lease payment. Authenticated people, obviously, not just randomers.
So, I mean, we've got this question here, and I think I'm not sure about the wording of it now that I'm reading it. But like portals, as you're referring to it, I mean, sometimes in consultancy, it's seen as the kind of the weaker part, and I wonder if weaker is the wrong word. I don't. Who think said that, weaker.
John? Who said it was weaker?
I don't know. Someone that I was speaking to in the corridors of South Coast Summit. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe it doesn't get enough. It doesn't get a lot of love, right? And I think people do. I think it was part of the three kind of apps, wasn't it, originally? Like model-driven Canvas app portals. Then it got split. Then it changed its name. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I know you're going to not agree with this statement, so I don't know why I'm asking the question, but do you agree with the fact that, it doesn't get a lot of love? That's probably more the question, and that it needs a little bit more.
I'll answer this out in the car park, John. I'll just come and unlock you. But no, I get where you're coming from. I do. I would certainly say it's the weaker positioned of all the Power Platform products, because it was so great that Microsoft broke it out as a separate product, Power Pages, and all that extra clout that it got, all that extra demand came in, and I really benefited from that. I think the product as a whole did. But I have no idea who started to describe what Power Pages is. Secure external facing websites powered by business data, or some ridiculous thing like that. Whereas portals, for me, did exactly what it said on the tin. So I think, it's got a positioning problem for sure, and I'm ready to rant about that to anyone at any time. But what I do find, which is quite surprising, my friend Rory Neary, I've been taking him through portals recently, and for him, the penny just dropped within moments, and it was like, we need to get the word out. How is this so ridiculously valuable to businesses, yet no one knows it?
Yeah.
And that was a matter of taking him through a few real life use cases. It was showing him some of the customizations I was building, but also just about that time to value. So he's never built a portal before, and within say 45 minutes, that's referencing Madagascar, that's 4 to 5, not 45 minutes. He's built something useful. He's securely exposed data. He can capture information through forms. He can show that through lists to the right people. And yeah, just selling him on what they're actually meant to be used for, where they can add value, and showing some real life use cases. And I think if Microsoft did a better job of that, many more of us would be sold. But I think also, sorry, you probably regret answering this already.
No, not at all.
It's a lengthy answer, but I would also say for what you can do with the configurable tools is already very powerful. But when you think about the customizations, it does end up a bit of a weird intersection of skills that not necessarily a lot of Power Platform and consultants will have. So you need to know a bit of model-driven apps. You need to know the business process. It makes sense to be a bit business-minded. So where's the ROI? What's the benefit to the customer? And having some web design chops is also going to help.
Yeah,
sorry, Mike.
No. It's I've from my own experience, I know that getting a dashboard for customers has traditionally been a very, very expensive undertaking. So I wonder if, combined with the very different licensing model with portals, along with historically undertaking something like that, can be quite challenging and two, quite costly anyway. I wonder if that's why maybe that's where the marketing needs to go for portals. Maybe that's where it needs to target, and that's maybe where it's missing, is that those smaller businesses who wouldn't even consider building something like that due to the cost. Actually, if it's explained to them the benefits and how easy it is and how straightforward it is, actually, like they can turn that into an ROI.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, I think it's about understanding what the package does. So if you compared it to something like if you used it, something like Microsoft Forms, where it's just a one-off, we receive that information from you and then we essentially forget you, it wouldn't be a good use case. Likewise, in my strong opinion, that would be other bad use cases with things like your corporate website, marketing microsites, that kind of thing. But if it's a business process, you think something like a mortgage application, a compliance review, and passport application. You're a letting agent, and your audiences maybe are landlords, letting agent, tenant, guarantor. There's that ongoing process where you potentially need back and forth with documentation. You've got approvals, gathering your due diligence at different stages. You want to trigger the customer to come back in, provide some more information, receive some more information. It's totally different again to just, we've got a contact form on our site and we could use Microsoft Forms for it, or we could do it on WordPress, or we could do back and forth via email. But actually, if the customer's there, they're kicking the process along, they've got access to workflows, their actions actually trigger the next Power Automate flow or workflow. Yeah, it's so much more powerful. So the dashboard, 100%, I build into every project. Usually as an unwritten requirement, but always a value add.
And then on top of that, you've got the security, scalability, and availability of Dataverse basically in the background.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, very good point, John. You have got all of that of Dataverse, but don't forget you've also got all of Power Platform and Azure as well. It is actually a really powerful ecosystem that you're providing the front door to with portals. So if you imagine, let's say, insurance use cases, I've done plenty of those where you want to gather evidence for insurance claims. Well, let's say, what can AI Builder bring into the mix? What can cognitive services bring into the mix, analysing those images? What can we automatically search about the policies and all that kind of thing using cognitive search? That you're just opening up so many possibilities. And with the Power Automate connector that's just come in, that makes a ton more possible for people that aren't as code savvy. So if you imagine you've had to code something with a REST API before, and now you just say, well, I'm going to use that Power Automate connector, leverage my existing skills, use those thousand plus available connectors off the shelf, or build my own. There's so much more that the Power Platform team can do then. And that's probably a misconception as well, that a portal project is just a portal project. It's largely a Power Platform project where the front end is a portal. But yeah, so Power Automate skills, Azure skills, really valuable. Model-driven apps, classic workflows. There's so much you can bring to the fore with Power Pages.
Is there anything in your experience that you come across where you can't integrate yet? Obviously, you just called out Power Automate, and that's kind of, I remember that coming out a couple of months ago, maybe a little bit longer. But is there anything else that you can think of that is not possible at the moment, but something that you'd like to see the ability to do inside portals when it comes to the wider Microsoft ecosystem?
No, good question, but no, not particularly, because we've got the benefit, everything lands in Dataverse anyway through the portal. Data flows were a big step forward for portals as well. So the limitation being, well, everything's got to be in Dataverse, whether a virtual table or an actual table. Data flows close that big gap to say, well, if it's in SQL, no problem, pull it that way. Whatever your legacy system is, again, all those hundreds, thousand plus, connectors now mean nice and easily we can use the data flow, bring that into Dataverse, and then it is cool. It is good to go with portals and virtual table. I'd say if you're getting into Power Pages, now is a fantastic time. A lot of what was a real pain in the backside previously that probably did warrant paying consultants, now less so, because you've got the basics so easily available within Power Pages rather than the portal management app. And you've got things like, well, Stripe integration, DocuSign integration, Power Automate integration. I think what's been fantastic since the Power Pages launch versus Power Apps portals is we've got a lot more access to the product team. Nikita Polyakov, Donovan Good, I'm in constant contact with them. They do a great job of reaching out to the community, and unlike other areas on the Microsoft stack, sometimes it really feels like they're listening to the user base. So to have come up with DocuSign as the provider and Stripe as the provider rather than some strange obscure one or build one from scratch makes perfect strategic sense, because that I've probably done my 6th Stripe integration custom recently. So knowing that we'll soon have that out of the box is superb. And DocuSign, again, spent plenty of time on R&D and custom development to deliver that in the past. So to just have a configurable way to do it is awesome. And again, if you think that portal and that web application use case of Power Pages, DocuSign e-signatures makes perfect sense. So it could be tenant signing agreement. It could be, on one of my other projects, could be a pro soccer player signing a new contract. Maybe with the insurance claim, you sign in to say everything that I've just provided is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, or I'm signing my new policy. It's just such a great fit.
Yeah, and do you? I know you talk at conferences quite a lot. What have you got? What have you got coming up on that front?
Yeah, cool. Very excited to say I'm going to be at Canadian Power Platform Summit next month. Really looking forward to that. It is a bit of a fanboy moment as well, because so much of the original Portals team and all the Portal MVPs were always from Canada, because that's where ADX Studio started as a product that Microsoft bought. So the likes of Nick Doleman, Nick Hayduck, Victor Dantas, there's so many of them over there. So it's going to be cool rubbing shoulder with those. And yeah, I just like to fit travel into my working year as much as possible. Which, yeah, I've not really mentioned yet, but that is the big driver towards freelance for me. It wasn't, let's make mega bucks. It was more, let's be able to design the year, or at least the working week, around what I want to spend my time doing, which is travel, being on the beach as much as possible. And the moment I'm in the northwest of England and it's February, so it's not best suited to that. But we have actually got some wicked beaches nearby, which a lot of people don't realise. And around the Wirral, Crosby, Formby Beach, Ainsdale, some cracking places.
Yeah. So when you submit sessions to conferences, do you have any tips to help those who are like writing sessions to help them stand out or pop or ultimately get selected?
Good question. I wouldn't say I've got massive success on that front, but going on the lessons learned from those that weren't accepted versus those that were, it's thinking about what's the benefit to the audience and actually going into a bit of detail with the description rather than just think, well, it might not even get accepted. I'll just put this title in that makes sense to me and not necessarily the audience. I'm not going to the learning outcomes and we'll see how it goes. I'll just flesh it out later. So yeah, I think about what are the pain points, and also definitely a lesson learned for me, what actually works in the allotted time. So my first couple of sessions, I came out of them exhausted, kind of happy that I've got some stuff shared, but realizing that really should have been a 3-hour course or a full day course. And I've just tried to open the fire hose and let out every bit of information that I know in 50 minutes, which doesn't work. So yeah, I think distill the essence of what you're doing. What's a key message you want to get across? And what's the best way to present that, which isn't always live coding and live building. It could just be some before and after screenshots, some powerful slides, or focus on a few tips and say, here's a blog post to follow up on that if you want to dive deeper.
Yeah. And when you were rejected for sessions, did you actually get feedback? Or is this sort of like what you've come to through like looking at your own submissions and the ones that get rejected and just sort of
it's more that is keeping an eye on what gets rejected. But interestingly, those that I said were more like a 3 to 8 hour epic shoehorned into 45 minutes did get accepted, and those that I thought would be really sensible, nicely self-contained sessions and ended up getting rejected. But I think there is an element of packing something that is going to be exciting, not just useful, but exciting as well. So, for example, one that got rejected recently was getting the maximum bang for your buck out of the box tools with Power Pages versus here's exciting stuff you can do with styling and liquid in portals. And another one was how to get the requirements entirely right, turn that into a build list and attack it the right way, which I thought going to benefit so many people. But again, I think just not considered exciting enough.
Is there so apart from portals, because obviously I understand that's your bread and butter. Are there any other subjects that you like to talk about at conferences or that you would maybe submit on?
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot. I've got an AMA session, not a martial arts thing, an Ask Me Anything session at the Canadian Summit as well, which is all about breaking into consultancy and freelancing, which I'm really excited to share. I do end up doing a lot of ad hoc mentoring on that side of things, people that want to get into it, considering the next move, or even just teeing up their LinkedIn profile ready for that, or wondering what area of the platform to specialize in versus should I stay a generalist. So yeah, I think I'd enjoy doing stuff like that. I got interviewed by a course creator the other week on that subject and just found out I was buzzing afterwards. So I thought, yeah, that's something I'd like to spend some more time on. And from a selfish perspective, it would be cool because it doesn't take any prep. I found when I'm writing portal tutorials, help videos, that kind of thing, I might have a 10-second tip to share, but it's based on something I've learned on a client project. I can't show that client project. So it ends up, I spend a day or two prepping just to be able to show that 10-second tip because here's a data model, here's a portal spun up, here's all the supporting factors that go around. Oh, well, yeah, well, we need data in a certain size and shape. We need this to have happened before. And it just becomes way more effort than what it should be. Whereas if it's just off the cuff, how did you get into contracting? What were the lessons learned? What's the difference with freelancing? You can just do that easily off the cuff. And I think that's something else you learn as a conference speaker. You go to someone else's conference session and think, they've just delivered way more value with much, much, much less effort. And it's like, why am I not doing things that way?
Nice.
I think some people make it look easy, don't they, when they deliver sessions? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I found it, in fact, interesting and a cool approach for conferences is my friend Ulrike Eckerbeck, also from the Portals world, the Power Platform Boost podcast. I met her, I already knew her well, but I saw her at Power Platform Conference in Orlando the other year, and she'd made a point of, I've heard a tip, what I'm going to do this year, I usually only go to Portal sessions, I'm going to pick a certain number of sessions that are completely out of my comfort zone, A, see how they're delivered, but B, just see what that adds to my toolkit, my thinking, maybe it'll give me a few ideas out of left field, and I've done that myself since.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's what I try and do at conferences as well. There was a tendency for me to go to all the kind of Power Automate stuff likes of Paul Morana and Tom and Thomas and stuff like that. But I quite like going to the sessions where it's not necessarily about the tech so much. It's more around the humans behind it, kind of thing. I like those a lot.
Yeah, but it is going to sessions in your wheelhouse is useful in different ways as well, though, isn't it? So you've got that camaraderie. You've probably got good friends in that space. You've got heroes in that space. Good to rub shoulders with them. It's great to see how other people position what you're doing, as well as obviously picking up the tips that they're sharing. But yeah, I think if you can sprinkle a bit in that is something completely outside your comfort zone, maybe something that you didn't know existed in Power Platform, that would be cool. But the big pain point for me is always, I don't know if it's just by chance or it's my biased view, but I always seem to be put on at the same time as all the best sessions I would like to attend. So it's like, A, I miss out on it, and B, why would anyone come to my session when that's on?
I was there at your session in Reading, remember? I think there was a clash there, and I was like, all right, no, I'm going to stick up. I'm going to go to Franco. Yeah.
Nice one, appreciate it. But yeah, it was. I remember that day was a bit chaotic, as a lot of my sessions are. I was like, well, I've got all this carefully planned content. Who votes for that, and who votes for Franco Airways, where we just fly by the seat of our pants and we'll do a live build for 45 minutes? And of course, everyone chose the latter.
Nice. So, with the other thing that we need to talk about, because me and you've talked about this a bit before, is our clubbing history. So, yeah, do you want you go first, because I'm not sure a lot of people know this, but I think it's quite a good story.
Cool. Yeah. Well, my background is that I've worked in so many different industries, which is what I think helps make me a good consultant, because I can bring in things from other verticals easily enough. But yeah, way before tech, I was in the nightclub industry and the bar industry, working. My dad had a nightclub in Bolton, which was really well known. The Temple, it's kind of a contender to Ministry of Sound, Cream, Tall Trees, that kind of thing. So my brother was a wicked hard house and trance DJ. We had brilliant residents, always had massive name DJs from Ibiza and stuff like that come and guest in there. I was a DJ as well, but I was totally on the cheese side and just making sure
sell out.
Everyone has so kind of like your wedding DJ, where everyone thinks they're too cool until they come to my place, and then start a few drinks in, I'm going to get you on the dance floor. You're never going to sit down again, or at least for that night. Sorry, you're going to be upset when you have to leave because you just had the best time of your life. Whereas the other clubs are all about looking cool, being cool, hard house, trance, Ibiza stuff. Yeah, so that was my. I've had many jobs from being, say, 11 onwards. I was probably about 30 before I only ever had one sole job. But back then, it was all stuff to do with clubs. So whether that was working on the bar, stocking the shelves, doing the graphics, doing the websites, helping with the promotion. Cleaner was my first job. But yeah, I've done probably everything there is to do in the nightclub industry, apart from being a credible DJ.
And I like how you said at the start there that it affects the ability for you to be a really good consultant. Yeah, and I totally agree with that, because you can basically talk to pretty much anyone, really, because of all of the different job experience that you've had, and tailor your conversation accordingly to who you're speaking to.
Yeah, I had not particularly lucrative, but I did have a little side gig when I was contracting. All these businesses have the suggestion box. What could we do better? What could we do differently? Win your 25 quid Amazon voucher. Well, that was so easy for me because I'd already worked a million places. Then as a contractor, I was the new guy again every 3 months. So I just, here's what worked well in the last place. Here's what you should do that this company isn't doing. So yeah, give me the vouchers. All good.
Nice.
But yeah, let the audience know about your DJing experience, John. I don't think that's very widely known either.
Okay, so
at least in this audience.
Yeah. So probably
interesting. Before he starts, we actually had our episode with Mark Smith published just the other day, and you mentioned that you're probably going to be packing up your DJing, but that's changed.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I've started putting the feelers out again. So Yeah, so like back in, I don't know, I was at university in Southampton, then moved up to London, was working at the BBC, and yeah, it was really good, but not really doing lots of socialising really. And there was a website that came up called don'tstayin.com, which
Oh, I remember that.
was pretty much the precursor. It was really the precursor to Facebook. Facebook wasn't around then, and I got to know the guys that built that website and got to know them quite well. And then I've always kind of like DJ'd a little bit, kind of like bedroom stuff, but nothing more than that. And then I thought, I was living in South Ealing at the time, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna like, make a CD and send it off to these promotions, and didn't really think anything of it. And that was like middle of 2005. And then I got a phone call from this guy who runs a South African guy that runs this party in Clapham called Sundays, funnily enough, on a Sunday, and I basically became their main resident for that party on a Sunday. But it was really good because you had the people who went out on a Friday night, the people who went out on a Saturday night, and then there was a different set of people that came out on a Sunday night or Sunday day, and they really wanted to be there. So it was quite an electric kind of atmosphere, really. And then through that, I DJ'd at pretty much everywhere, apart from, I think the only place I didn't DJ at in London was the End, which was something that kind of got away from me. But I played at Turnmills and Ministry and Pasha. Went to Ibiza a couple of times. And then all roads seemed to lead back to Southampton. We then got a residency at a club called Junk in Southampton for about a year and a half, doing like a monthly Saturday thing there, and that's now turned into a strip club. So yeah,
unrelated stories about becoming a strip club.
Yes, unrelated story. Yeah. So yes, I do miss it, and I miss the, I don't know, I miss the focus of it, I think. And I quite like the technical side of it, like the technical challenges sometimes, and working out what music goes with what. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
I know what drew you back to Southampton.
Well, you.
Yeah, there was that that magnetic force that we didn't know existed till we both joined ANS.
Yeah, exactly. So like Mike said on Mark Smith's podcast, which came out the other day, I said, oh, maybe I've hung up my DJing boots, but I've inquired a couple of places to find out if there's anything going, and I've got a couple of little nibbles here and there. So watch this space, see what happens. Yeah,
cool. Well, yeah, I do get a lot of underwhelmed people. So like, oh, cool. So you're into nightclubs, you were into bars, and then you got into like computer animation and special effects. So what is it you do now? That old Power Pages. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but it does. You do see there's a lot of that starving artist model as well, don't you? There's so many things that are so fun to do, they just work out well. If you're going to basically be paid to do your hobby, we're going to pay you peanuts for it.
Yeah,
that's a lot of what I found.
Yeah,
but yeah, I miss the buzz, the atmosphere, just walking into somewhere where it's your crowd, or like you said, you work out. For me, as a cheese DJ, it was always about, can I get away with dropping this tune? Is it going to bomb when everyone leaves?
Yeah.
Or they're going to go absolutely nuts. And when it was nuts, it was like, yes!
Yeah, the first time I played Pasha, which was in, it used to be called Southwest SW1, I think. And it's right outside Victoria train station. It's not there anymore. And I got asked to play in the main room downstairs, right? And there was this lady standing behind me, and she was employed to kind of watch what the DJs were doing and like, kind of behind, and she didn't know who I was, which, I wasn't really known very well. And she kept saying to me, oh, what tune are you going to play first? What tune are you going to play first? And I was like, so some house stuff. And then I put on The Power by Snap in the main room of Pasha, and it went absolutely mental. And she was like, this is good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like you. Like, I like to find those things that mix together. You're not going to really expect that's going to come next.
Yeah, and I think there's some tracks that just transcend whatever audience is in there, isn't there? Like, in my bars, I'd often have, you could tell there's a mix of people, say, into indie one night, some dance, some specifically into R&B. But you knew you could play something like The Source and Candy Saturn, You Got the Love, and everyone's going to be into that. Or maybe the Florence and Machine version, or you do something at the end of the night, play Don't Look Back in Anger, and you're thinking, yeah, you're gonna break your genres a bit because you can't help but love that kind of song.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, not credible music like yours, John.
He says his music's credible.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, we share some taste, don't we? That your 90s house and dance playlist, love that one. Your we got liquid drum and bass in common. I think there's quite a bit. But yeah, it's all teeing up ready for the Sprint Zero summer party that you're yet to announce.
Oh yeah,
with live PA, of course.
Yeah. How are your vocals?
Awesome, can't you tell? What I lack in skill, I make up for in enthusiasm, much like my dancing.
Brilliant.
Dancing in inverted commas.
So, Franco, we have a section now called Uncomfortable Corner.
Uncomfortable Corner.
So, go on.
I feel like I've over-delivered on this already. As I said, with the back injury, I'm hideously uncomfortable. But sorry, go ahead. I took your thunder there.
When was the last time you felt uncomfortable in or out of work? Explain how you felt, how you managed to get through it, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so I could give a cop-out answer here, like I'm always out of my comfort zone, always trying to push myself forward on the professional side. But with respect to what yourselves and a lot of others in the community have shared, I had some real challenges with burnout in the last few years. And I'm a very resilient person. I've not experienced anything with mental health, and I hadn't really put two and two together. Looking back, there's a lot of different symptoms, but it culminated with, I just drove back from, I was too tired to go out. I'd been overworked, too tired to go out, but I took the kids out anyway, got back home and drove my dad's car through the front wall, not the front garden, but actually into the living room. Luckily, no one was there to get injured. My mum was only feet away from the car, and that kind of clocked like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't got a single ounce of brain power left. I'm emotionally exhausted. I had lots going on in my personal life, and it was just like a moment of realization that needs to change now. So yeah, that was hugely uncomfortable. Obviously, there's not much getting around that, so it's not like you can just try and keep people's eye contact and not let them notice you've just basically demolished the front of the house. There's no real skirting about it. So yeah, that was me accepting. Yeah, I took on too much. I couldn't particularly deal with it in the right way. If it was just that or just the trauma on the personal life, then probably manage all of that. And I'm used to just burying myself in work. You know, if there's a million tasks to do, no issue. I'll just go in knee deep. I was going to say something rude there. Go in knee deep, just no issue, and think, well, it's going to be 2 weeks of craziness, no worries, smash all that. But when it was that combined with personal trauma and that with having taken on too many extracurricular activities, yeah, it was just too much. So I'd say do kind of take notice of the symptoms. Really appreciate, John, you reached out about that time when I was on the Power Platform Whistle Stop Tour, seemingly random. I didn't think there was any symptoms out in public, but like I said, just reaching out, ask how you are, knowing it's from someone that you can be candid with really made a massive difference. But that does lead to, as I said, that being freelance is a lot around being able to design my lifestyle. So I'd say 2018, I absolutely hit the jackpot in terms of work-life balance. I was able to do 2, maybe maximum 3 days a week. I spent 5 months out of the country, loads of the year on the beach, just everything going so well, working in my area of genius, working mornings while the kids were sleeping. Just it's like, how can I not design every year to be like that? And ironically, I was getting better and better, and then lockdown came along. I was like, so work from anywhere actually has now become work from your home prison. But yeah, I think some stark contrasts there as well. That first lockdown, everyone seems to have the best possible memories of that. It's basically barbecue season. We're all convinced that just 8 weeks, take this hit, and then the world's back to normal, compared to the following lockdown where it was, I remember it as being eternal winter, and just thinking, well, I'll work every hour God sends, because I'll make hay while the sun doesn't shine, so to speak, get all the work stacked up. And then, it just timed badly for, I said some bad things on the personal side, one after another, led to that crazy moment. So that my uncomfortable corner is probably as much about being uncomfortable sharing that as what it was situation. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
I mean, thank you very much for sharing that. It takes a lot to talk about that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate it that you've done it here with us. One thing I was going to say, and I think maybe you made that connection yourself, is that sometimes when you're going through a bad time with your mental health and then something physical happens, it's like a connection of that, the mental side and the physical side together, that makes you realise, I'm struggling here. So for you, that was that, the physical impact of you going into your mum and dad's front room with your car, and that made you connect those two together. And sometimes things can be very separate. And then it happens with me and my wife quite a lot. If I'm having a bit of a bad time, my wife will say something and I'm like, I hadn't really thought of it like that. And yeah. So how are you doing at the moment?
I'm well. I'm looking forward to getting back to the travel, looking forward to the weather picking up. But yeah, sorry, I'm just... bad dad joke, I guess, coming up. But since you're saying about the physical and the mental there, I guess I literally did have a breakthrough, but it just happened to be through a house. But
we have a good dad joke.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
But as you say, I think if I was coaching somebody else, I've got family members that suffer with anxiety and depression. Always been there for them. I think I'm quite good at coaching them through that and being their rock, being their support and knowing how to deal with that. But I think when you're coaching somebody else, it's so much easier to see the signs, see the symptoms, and nip them in the bud before they manifest into anything. Whereas I think with me, I did too good a job of just keeping the veil up and just ploughing on.
Yeah, and it's important as well to be sort of like your best self, and however that comes about, to then look after others, right, and to help others.
Yeah, agreed. Ironically, I'm slightly more comfortable now. That's off my chest, and the
nice.
kicked in, so superb.
We pulled you out the corner.
Sometimes it's good to get things off your chest, right? That's but it can be difficult. It can be difficult to do that.
Yeah, and respect to yourselves for making that a section on the podcast. Respect to the community for mentioning things like that. It's not something that happens silently, but secretly behind closed doors anymore. There's tracks on the conferences these days. You've got support sessions at things like Scottish Summit. Yeah, I think we're an awesome community, absolutely awesome. And just to work in this space at all is a privilege. I was chatting with Sarah Jones from Shortlist the other week. There's a bit of banter on LinkedIn after the ANS session that we attended, and just saying how lucky are we to be working in this space where you get to meet up with like-minded people as work, have some banter, have a chat, share your interests, share vulnerabilities and stuff like that, and it not be, well, you're going to get fired for that. But actually, it's encouraged things like Squirrel Club at ANS. They're just awesome initiatives, aren't they? And they do get noticed.
That's amazing. You've just said that, because we've got show notes that we kind of have this conversation between me and Mike, giving our game away. And I've just literally written, we need to give Squirrels a shout.
You've literally just done it.
Yeah,
Mind
yeah,
reader.
and you've literally just done it. So they got it was yesterday. It was like 1 year since the Squirrel Club kind of started, and that was a kind of an off the cuff email from our communications person at ANS, a lady called Liz Donovan, to our head of HR, just saying, I wonder if we could start some kind of community around neurodivergent people and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it grew from 14 at the start to nearly 100 members now.
Wow.
And I really, really think it's bigger than just ANS. When I got diagnosed with ADHD, the psychiatrist said to me, "Oh, what job do you do?" And then she said, "Actually, let me guess. I bet you work in IT or something like that." And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "There's so many people with ADHD in that area, and because we're in that field, and because you kind of look after each other a little bit, I think it's something that could be shared wider."
I think our community as well are awesome when it comes to sharing as well. So open. Like, for example, I love the in-person events, the low-code stuff you do at ANS, demystification of low-code. Been to a few of those now. And it's not like, "Oh no, we're ANS and we've just seen someone from Hitachi show up, get out, or your opinion doesn't count, or you must accept that you're going to bow down to ANS's approach." It's everybody's opinion's welcome, isn't it? It's all about sharing, whether that's best practices about the tech culture, how to look after your people. You seem to have swallowed up all the MVPs in the UK at the moment, but yeah, just the fact that you'll put on a free conference, everyone welcome, don't discourage the networking. So cool.
Yeah, it's what it's all about. I think a Power Platform is bigger than just one or two key partners in the space. It's bigger than that. It's always been bigger than that, and that's why I get involved in it, because of that's one of the primary reasons why I'm involved in it.
Yeah, and I think I've gone off on a crazy tangent now, but I think since Satya Nadella has been at the helm, it now seems such an exciting space to be working in, and so welcoming, and like you're joining a community rather than just starting to work on a particular tech, compared to going back to when I was working on it in, say, from 2006 to about 2015. It was almost like, you work in technology, cool. What awesome stuff do you work on? That or the Microsoft stack, CRM. Well, yeah, I guess someone has to, don't they? And you'd maybe find the odd blog here or there, but nothing like the community we've got now. Such a good time to get into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that's everything we've got time for this week. Franco, thank you so much for coming on to the show. You can find Franco Musso on LinkedIn and X. And have you got a YouTube channel?
I have, yes. I've not mastered YouTube yet, I must say.
You can find Franco on LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Additional music used in this episode is also credited in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn, and if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
Bye. See you later.
Franco Musso. Say goodbye, Franco.
Goodbye, Franco.
And I'm Mike. We'll see you on the next episode.
See you later. Bye. Love you, Mike. Right. Love you, Franco.
Right, back to the basement for us then, is it?
It is now. Right, no bathroom privileges for a week. That was disgraceful. Nice one, guys. I enjoyed that.
Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing. Especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past. Hey all, Franco Musso here again. Quick update on that hostage situation. Hopefully the smell isn't coming across the airwaves. I haven't let the guys use the bathroom yet, so the joke's definitely on me. Anyway, big announcement. I'm finally releasing my online Power Pages course. This has been 5 years in the making. It's tried and tested on citizen devs and portal makers all around the world. It's the course I wish existed when I was getting started. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it's project-based, so you're not wondering how the heck this would apply to the real world. I've built in battle-tested lessons I've learned from tens of successful portal projects across various industries, budgets, and geographies, and I've formulated the most efficient route from zero to heroic launch. The tools and techniques I've chosen to show you are all based on what adds the most value to you, the learner, and to your customers, all in the most compressed timeline possible. Think 80-20, focusing on the techniques that punch above their weight and deliver the majority of results. You'll get video lessons, a repeatable framework, and some super helpful worksheets. Visit francomusso.com/power-pages-course and register your interest. Disclaimer, this course isn't for you if you prefer hours of slides, theory, and little to no action. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.